Silence is often misunderstood. Many people think of it as emptiness, as if it is nothing more than the absence of sound. But silence is not empty. Silence is full. It carries weight, meaning, and depth. It is a language of its own, a language that does not need alphabets or spoken words. Silence can comfort, it can wound, it can heal, and it can inspire. Those who learn to listen to silence do not use their ears, because ears are trained to hear sound. Instead, they use their hearts, because only the heart can decode the hidden messages of stillness. Think about the first time you held your breath underwater. The chaos of sound disappeared, and you were surrounded only by your pulse, your heartbeat echoing inside your chest. In that short moment, silence revealed itself, not as an absence, but as a presence. It was you, your body, and your existence. That silence was telling you something. You are alive, you are breathing, you are here. But to understand that, you had to feel it, not hear it. The heart listens in ways the ears cannot. When two people sit together and say nothing, but feel everything, that is silence speaking. When a parent looks at their child with tears in their eyes, without uttering a word, the child understands. That is silence speaking. And when you stand in front of a sunset, feeling something deep stir inside you, though no sound is made, you know it is silence speaking. Silence is often the first language of truth. Children, before they learn words, communicate through silence, the silence of their gaze, the silence of their smiles, the silence of their tears. The world thinks a baby cannot speak, but in reality, the baby speaks the purest language of all, the silent language of the heart. In our world today, noise dominates. We are surrounded by the hum of machines, the chatter of conversations, the flood of media, and the constant buzz of technology. But inside this sea of noise, silence is like an island. Whoever reaches that island discovers treasures that noise can never offer: clarity, peace, and wisdom. Many philosophers, mystics, and sages have spoken about silence as if it were a divine teacher. They say that in silence, we meet ourselves. And that is perhaps the scariest part of silence, because when you stop hearing the world outside, you begin to hear the world within. In the stillness, the suppressed thoughts rise, the hidden fears whisper, and the forgotten dreams reawaken. Silence does not lie. It shows you what is truly inside you. Some people fear silence. They avoid it at all costs. They sleep with televisions on. They keep their headphones in. They fill every moment with chatter. Why? Because silence forces them to confront their own truth, and truth can sometimes be heavy. Yet, if one dares to listen, silence also gives strength. It is like a mirror. It will show you not only your wounds, but also your capacity to heal them. Consider nature. The mountains do not speak, but they hold wisdom older than humanity. The rivers do not use words, but they sing songs of eternity. The desert does not shout, but its silence humbles the soul. If you stand still in a forest at night, you will realize that silence is alive. It is breathing with you. And in that shared silence, you will feel that you are not separate from nature. You are part of it. When you listen with your heart, silence becomes an ocean of meaning. Each wave of stillness carries a message. Sometimes it tells you to slow down. Sometimes it tells you to forgive. Sometimes it tells you that you are loved, even if no one says it aloud. Sometimes it tells you to be strong. The greatest conversations of life often happen in silence. Lovers holding hands under the stars do not need words. Friends sitting quietly in each other's company are still communicating. Even at the end of life, when someone takes their last breath, the silence that follows says more than 1,000 words ever could. Silence, in truth, is not weakness. It is power. Only those who are strong can stay silent in moments of chaos. Only those who trust themselves can remain silent when provoked. And only those who are wise understand that silence does not mean nothing, it means everything. So, as we begin this journey together, remember, silence speaks. It speaks to you, about you, and for you. But you cannot hear it with your ears. You must place your ear upon your own heart and listen. You must let your feelings, not your logic, translate its words. If you learn to do that, silence will become your teacher, your healer, and your companion. This is the first truth of silence. It is not the absence of life. It is the beginning of life, its deepest language. Silence has always been misunderstood. Many take it as emptiness, as the absence of something meaningful. But those who pause long enough, who let the stillness stretch without fear, begin to notice that silence itself is full of whispers that words can never capture. It speaks not to the ears, but directly to the heart. Think of the moments when you sat beside someone you deeply cared for. Perhaps no words were exchanged, yet the atmosphere was alive. Every heartbeat, every glance, every small gesture carried a message far louder than speech could. In those unspoken exchanges, silence became the truest language. When you listen with your ears, you are limited to the sound waves that enter them. But when you listen with your heart, you open yourself to the vibrations of presence, the emotions that linger between two people, the honesty that hides behind unspoken words. Your heart is like a vast receiver. It doesn't need syllables or grammar. It simply feels. In a noisy world, many of us have forgotten how to feel this depth. We rush to fill gaps with chatter, as if silence is something to fear. We scroll endlessly, we watch, we consume, desperate to cover the quiet with distraction. Yet, silence waits patiently, like an old friend, inviting us back into connection. The heart knows silence, because it was born from it. Before you spoke your first word as a child, your heart already knew the comfort of your mother's embrace, the warmth of love unspoken. Even in the womb, there were no words, only rhythms, only presence, only feeling. That is why silence feels so familiar when we allow it. It takes us back to the purest form of understanding. Consider nature. The wind sweeping through the trees does not speak in letters, yet your heart knows its language. The ocean waves do not form words, yet they soothe you more deeply than 1,000 lectures. The rising sun makes no sound, yet its quiet glow tells your spirit. You have another chance today. Silence communicates truth in a way words often fail to do. Words can be twisted, misunderstood, manipulated, but silence, when shared with honesty, carries a kind of purity. Imagine a moment of apologies. Sometimes the most powerful "I am sorry" comes not from lips, but from lowered eyes, a bowed head, or a trembling hand reaching out. The heart feels what words alone cannot contain. When you sit with silence, you also meet yourself. This is perhaps the most challenging part. The reason so many run from silence is because it reflects back everything we hide, our fears, our regrets, our doubts. But it also reveals our deepest strengths, our resilience, our capacity to love, our forgotten dreams. Listening with the heart means allowing silence to guide us inward, to the truths buried beneath the noise of daily life. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine sitting by a calm lake at dusk. The water is still, reflecting the fading light. There is no one around, no traffic, no voices, just you and the soft hum of nature. You feel your breath, slow and steady. You notice your heartbeat. You realize that in this silence, you are not alone. You are connected to something larger, something timeless. This is the voice of silence. This is what the heart understands. And when you carry this awareness into your relationships, everything changes. Suddenly, you don't just hear what people say, you feel what they mean. You notice the pause before a word, the hesitation, the softness in the tone, the longing in the eyes. And you, by listening with your heart, become someone who truly understands. The greatest friendships, the deepest loves, the most sacred bonds, are built not on endless talking, but on the ability to sit together in silence and still feel safe, still feel heard. To listen without ears is to love without conditions. It is to accept someone fully, without demanding explanations. So next time you find yourself in silence, don't rush to fill it. Breathe into it. Open your heart. Let the quiet speak. You will discover that silence is not the absence of communication. It's the presence of truth, because silence says a lot. Silence has always been misunderstood. Many see it as emptiness, as nothingness, as a void that carries no meaning. But silence, in truth, is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of depth. Words can lie, tones can deceive, Expressions can mislead, but silence rarely does. It speaks directly to the heart, beyond the limitations of language, beyond the boundaries of culture, and beyond the fragility of expression. Think about a moment when you sat with someone you truly trusted. Perhaps it was a close friend, a parent, a sibling, or even a lover. In that moment, you both had no need to speak. The silence was not awkward, nor was it empty. Instead, it was full of unspoken feelings, shared understanding, and mutual presence. That silence said more than 1,000 words ever could. This is the power of silence. It holds truth when language fails. Imagine standing at the edge of a mountain during sunset. The horizon bleeds into hues of orange and violet. The air is cold and crisp, and for a long moment, you cannot speak. Not because you don't want to, but because the experience is beyond words. The silence between you and the mountain is its own conversation. The heart listens and understands, even when the ears hear nothing. In relationships, silence often plays the most important role. Arguments, misunderstandings, and conflicts are filled with words, sometimes harsh, sometimes sharp, sometimes careless. But the healing often begins when the words stop and silence enters. It is in silence that reflection grows, that realization blooms, that forgiveness finds a path. Silence gives space for the soul to breathe. Yet, silence is not always comfortable. For many, silence feels like a threat. It is as if without constant noise, without endless chatter, they may have to face themselves. This is why people often avoid silence. They fill their homes with television, their journeys with music, their free time with scrolling, their minds with endless distractions. Because in silence, the truth of the self emerges, and not everyone is ready to listen. But those who embrace silence begin to see the world differently. They understand that silence is not empty, but full of meaning. They see that silence can be both gentle and powerful. It can soothe like a mother's touch or strike like a storm. A silent look can convey love. A silent pause can build tension. A silent tear can hold more weight than 1,000 cries. Silence is alive, it breathes. It speaks, it teaches. In ancient traditions, silence has always been sacred. Monks spend years in silence, not because they reject communication, but because they seek a deeper one. In silence, they listen not with their ears, but with their hearts. They hear the language of existence itself, the whisper of the wind, the rhythm of the breath, the beat of life that flows through everything. Silence also connects us to others in ways words cannot. Consider the moment of standing beside someone at a funeral, holding their hand, saying nothing. In that silence, they know you are with them, that your presence speaks louder than words. Or think of lovers lying side by side, speaking not a word, yet feeling entirely understood. That is the language of silence. But silence is not only about stillness, it is about listening. Listening not just to others, but to the world and to yourself. Too often, we mistake listening for simply waiting for our turn to speak. But true listening begins in silence, when the mind quiets, when the heart opens. In silence, you hear the things that cannot be spoken. You notice the tremble in a voice, the pause in a sentence, the sigh between breaths. You feel the emotion that words try to hide. Silence, then, becomes the bridge between hearts. It creates space for empathy, for understanding, for connection. When you stop talking and start listening with silence, you discover truths you never noticed before. So when life overwhelms you, when words confuse you, when noise surrounds, you seek silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of presence. Sit quietly, breathe, listen. Hear the unspoken, feel the invisible. Trust that silence has a voice, and that it speaks to those who dare to hear it. Because silence, when listened to with the heart, is never empty. It is the purest language of all, the language of the soul. There is a language older than words, a rhythm deeper than speech, a connection stronger than explanation. That language is silence. We often think of silence as an absence and emptiness, where nothing exists. But if you pay attention, you will realize that silence is not empty. It is full of presence, full of meaning, full of unspoken truths that only the heart can understand. Consider the moment when two close friends sit together without speaking. No words are exchanged, yet everything is communicated. The comfort of companionship, the trust of being accepted, the bond that does not require constant validation. These things cannot be captured in words. They are revealed only through silence. It is in this kind of silence that the heart learns to listen beyond sound. Silence often becomes a mirror. When we are alone and the world grows quiet, we begin to hear the things we have long ignored, the whispers of our fears, the cries of our unhealed wounds, the gentle nudges of our dreams. Many avoid silence because it feels uncomfortable, even frightening. Noise is a distraction, a shield that prevents us from facing what is within. But silence strips us bare. It demands honesty. It forces us to confront the truth of who we are. And yet, silence is also a healer. When you sit in stillness, the chaos inside gradually settles, like muddy water clearing when left undisturbed. The mind, restless and noisy, begins to calm. The heart, overwhelmed and burdened, begins to soften. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of peace. It is the soil in which understanding and wisdom grow. Think of a forest at dawn. Before the birds fully awaken, before the winds stir the leaves, there is a stillness so profound it feels sacred. In that silence, you can sense the life of the trees, the quiet breath of the earth, the unseen energy of creation. Nature has always known the power of silence. The ocean's vastness, the desert's stillness, the mountains, Kamal, are teachers reminding us that silence is not a void, but a presence. Silence also transforms relationships. In a world addicted to words, arguments, and explanations, silence can be the most powerful response. Not every question needs an answer. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every moment of pain requires explanation. Sometimes, the silence of dignity speaks louder than any defense. Sometimes, the silence of love communicates more than endless reassurances. When we choose silence in anger, we prevent wounds that words would carve. When we choose silence in grief, we allow the heart space to heal. When we choose silence in love, we create a depth of connection that transcends speech. To listen with the heart is to embrace this unspoken language, to hear the meaning beneath what is said, and to value the stillness between words as much as the words themselves. Silence, however, is not always easy. We live in a culture that glorifies noise, speed, and constant activity. To be silent is often mistaken for weakness, shyness, or ignorance. But true silence requires courage. It takes strength to pause when the world demands reaction. It takes wisdom to listen when the world demands answers. And it takes love to remain still when the world demands noise. There are times when silence can heal what words cannot. Imagine standing beside someone in deep sorrow. You may not know what to say. Words may feel small, even hollow. But your silent presence, your hand gently placed on theirs, your quiet companionship can speak more than any sentence. In such moments, silence becomes a language of compassion. It says, I am here. I see you. You are not alone. The same is true in love. Lovers often find themselves falling into quiet moments together, watching a sunset, walking side by side, or sitting close with no words spoken. In those silences, there is no emptiness, only fullness, the fullness of connection, of trust, of hearts that understand without needing to explain. Silence also teaches patience. In silence, we learn that not everything needs an immediate reaction. That truth reveals itself slowly, like the opening of a flower. That wisdom arrives gently, like the rise of dawn. When we rush, we miss the beauty of what is unfolding. But when we sit in silence, we allow life to reveal itself in its own rhythm. The heart understands silence because the heart itself speaks in silence. Its language is not sound but feeling. It whispers through intuition, through sudden clarity, through the deep knowing that cannot be explained but can always be trusted. To listen not with the ears but with the heart is to attune yourself to this inner voice, this sacred silence that connects you to truth. So, when silence surrounds you, do not fear it. Do not rush to fill it with words, noise, or distraction. Instead, Welcome it as a teacher, as a friend, as a mirror. Listen to it not with your ears, but with your heart. And you will discover that silence is not the absence of communication. It's the highest form of it. Silence says a lot. It tells us who we are, what we need, what we love, and what we must let go. It guides us toward wisdom, patience, peace, and love. All we need is the courage to listen. Silence has always been seen as emptiness, a void where nothing exists. Yet, if you step closer, if you dare to lean into it with patience, you'll discover that silence is not empty, it is full of meanings, of emotions, of the unspoken truths that words often fail to express. Many of us are trapped in a world that glorifies noise, conversations, arguments, entertainment, and the endless digital hum of our devices leave us little room to pause. But in silence, you discover the heartbeat of your own existence. It whispers softly, reminding you of who you are beneath the masks you wear for society. When two people sit together in silence, something profound happens. It's not about the absence of words. It's about the presence of connection. Lovers can sit quietly and still know what the other feels. Parents can sit beside their children and, without words, offer comfort. A friend can sit beside another in pain, saying nothing, and yet giving more support than any spoken reassurance ever could. This is the secret of silence. It's not about muting the world, but about allowing the heart to speak louder. Think of the moments in life when silence has struck you the hardest. Perhaps it was the silence after an argument, when no words remain, but emotions scream louder than ever. Or the silence before a life-changing decision, when the weight of choice presses against your chest. Or the silence of nature, when the world seems to hold its breath at sunrise, waiting for light to break the darkness. Each of these moments teaches us something powerful. Silence is a teacher. It speaks, not with sound, but with presence. Too often, we fear silence. We rush to fill it with chatter, with music, with noise, because silence feels uncomfortable. But have you ever wondered why? It's because silence reveals truths we are not ready to face. In silence, you cannot hide from your thoughts. The insecurities, the regrets, the dreams you have ignored, they all rise to the surface. Silence is a mirror, showing you what you truly carry inside. And yet, this is also why silence is powerful. It is in silence that healing begins, because the first step to healing is seeing yourself as you are. In spiritual traditions across the world, silence has always been sacred. Monks retreat into silence to hear the divine. Mystics believe that silence opens the doorway to higher wisdom. Even in prayer, it is not always the words we say, but the silence in between them that carries our intentions to the heavens. Silence is the bridge between the human and the divine, between the mind and the soul. It is where you stop listening with your ears and begin listening with your heart. Imagine sitting beneath the stars on a quiet night. There are no voices, no distractions, only the vast sky stretching endlessly above you. In that silence, you feel something awaken inside, a sense of wonder, of belonging, of connection to something greater than yourself. This is the gift of silence. It strips away illusions and reminds you of the eternal truths, that you are alive, that you are part of the universe, that your heart beats in harmony with the rhythm of existence. But how do we practice listening with the heart? First, by slowing down. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and resist the urge to distract yourself. Notice your thoughts, your emotions, and let them flow without judgment. Second, be present with others. Instead of rushing to respond in conversations, allow silence to fill the space. You will notice that people reveal more in silence than in words. Third, immerse yourself in nature. The silence of a forest, the stillness of a mountain, the calm of the ocean, they all carry messages that your heart will understand if you are willing to listen. Silence does not always mean peace, though sometimes silence is heavy. It is the silence of loneliness, of loss, of unanswered prayers. Yet even in this kind of silence, there is wisdom. It teaches resilience, patience, and the depth of human experience. Silence challenges you to find strength within, to discover your own voice amidst the quiet. And when you do, you emerge stronger, more compassionate, more alive. Think of it this way: words are like rivers, constantly flowing, shaping the land. But silence is like the ocean, deep, vast, and eternal. Rivers may end, but the ocean holds everything within itself. This is why silence is so powerful. It holds all possibilities, all truths, all emotions. When you listen with your heart, you enter that ocean, and you realize that silence is not emptiness, it's infinity. So, the next time you encounter silence, do not fear it. Do not rush to escape it. Instead, sit with it, breathe with it, feel it. Let your heart take the lead, for your heart understands what your ears cannot. Silence says a lot, but only if you are brave enough to listen. Because, in the end, the deepest conversations are not spoken, they are felt. They are carried in the pauses, in the glances, in the spaces between words. The universe itself speaks in silence, through the stillness of the stars, the calm of the sea, the quiet of the dawn. All it asks is that you listen, not with your ears, but with your heart.